Hey, welcome back to the Sloth-Worx YouTube channel. Today we have a Mercury 225 OptiMax that is struggling to get on plane. Won't hardly get above 2400 RPM. Problems intermittent, which is no fun to diagnose. Luckily I have a computer. I got a pretty good suspicion what the problem is. I'll show you all that. But I also wanted to show you what all you could check on your own without a computer if you're having a similar issue. It's pretty easy to check out in the water. You will have to find the plug and follow wire harness and all that, get it where you can get to it once you get out on the water, because it's kind of tucked away. Anyway, we'll get to it. I suspect the problem is going to be the shift switch. Okay, so here's what the computer says. Overspeed and neutral. Looking at RPMs, 2400. Abusive maneuver. All of these are the same hour range, but it's putting the engine into the Guardian strategy. You know, that was the alarm that went off in the boat, was the abusive maneuver in neutral. But if you look, where's it at? Right there. All of these issues was while it was in neutral. That's why I'm thinking that it's going to be that shift switch. Okay, so this is the port side or left side of your engine. If you look down, you'll see your shift rod. That little switch with those two little screws right there is your shift switch. That wire harness is tucked way down up in there. I was able to get all the, sorry about the light, it sucks right now. I was able to get the two tie straps off and get it loose. But the plug is, you can't even see it. You gotta just kind of reach up underneath here to feel it. So I will be able to disconnect that once we get out on the water. It's no fun to get to, and it would be easier just to take that lower cowling off. I don't know how long I have to run it to get the problem to start again. So I kind of like to just keep all that together right now. But if it starts happening, we'll be rigged up. We'll be ready for it. We'll have to make us a little tool. Okay, so here we go. We're just gonna have this paper clip. We're gonna bend it. We're gonna cut this other side off. And we're just gonna take that horseshoe right there. It's a different motor, but same type of plug. So that's what you're going with, or going for. Just make a little loop. It sticks in there pretty tight, but we'll take this with us. And if that sucker starts acting up, we'll pull that plug loose and stick this in and see what happens. I do generally hate it, but problems just won't recreate themselves. But we'll keep trying. I was hoping to do it at the boat ramp before I ever took it off the trailer. It didn't quite work out. I'll bring y'all back if something happens. Alright, so we finally got it to do it. It's been almost an hour out here running, everything fine. So we're in gear now. I'm just gonna advance the throttle and you'll hear the alarm go off. I'll show you the tack in a minute. Oh, and now it's fine. I hate intermittent problems. Make it do it again, and I'll bring y'all back a little sooner. Alright, we got turned around and try it again. Okay, back in neutral. There we go. so we finally got it to duplicate the problem. That's pretty typical of a shift switch. So we're going to try and pull up here along this bank and put our little paper clip in there. See what happens. It's doing it pretty regular now though. So maybe we finally hit that sweet spot in it where it's just going to be a problem. Okay, so here you go. It's in a tricky spot to get unplugged. But once you get it unplugged, you'll have a little bit of room to pull that wire harness out and plug that little wire in. I'm just gonna leave the cowling off, hoping it'll just happen pretty quick and everything will be fine and we can go change out a shift switch. All right, so with the wire hooked up, back to neutral. We're gonna do it one more time. All right. Now we'll go pull that wire out of there. Oh, I see a fuel leak problem. Okay, that's got the little wire out. Back to neutral. All right, so we finally got the problem to replicate. We plugged that little thing in, that made contact, and it caused that same problem every time we tried to take off. Undid it. That pretty much solved the issue with it completely unplugged. No more issues. So it's definitely a bad shift switch. But we'll get that changed out. Found a fuel leak, so there's going to be a little bonus video for this. Oh, I want to thank the guy that stopped and saw the cowling off and me messing with that old motor. But just thank him for stopping by and making sure I didn't need to tow back to the ramp. I mean, I appreciate that. We're all good. We're just test running, but it's nice to see people still out there doing the things the way they're supposed to do them. Anyway, we'll get this thing back to the shop and get that shift switch changed out. Okay, well, we're back at the shop. I'm going to show y'all how to get that little shift switch out of there. It's a fairly easy process, especially if you've picked up one of these. It's a 5/16 or 8mm, or just a socket with the little wobbler on there, but that usually makes for a fairly long assembly. This is the way to go if you got a Mercury. So pick one of those up. And pull this off like so. Now, there's only 4 bolts that hold this in. You got that one right there. You got that one up under there. You got that one right there. And then this little plastic plug here. You know, pop that out, and there's one way up in there. You can actually see it. Actually, I guess there is technically 6 bolts. You need to take these 2 bolts off of this bracket that holds all your rigging tube on. That's going to need to come loose so we can get this side panel off. Okay, so once you get the 3 easy bolts to get out, one up under there and the 2 in the back, the easiest way I found to get to that one is to run your socket with your extensions and your little wiggler up through there. You just lift up on the rigging tube. Of course, you obviously got to have that rigging tube plate removed, but then you can just lift up on the rigging tube and spin that bolt out. Save that one, do that one last, and to get it off and do it first, putting it back on. Well, I apologize for the choppiness. I don't have a tripod or anything here with me today, but once this is loose, you can just leave it in the cowling, and this cover will just kind of slide right off of there. It's not going to be super easy, but once we pop it all loose, we'll just have to, it's going to take me 2 hands, but I'll lift up on this rigging tube and then we'll be able to get it the rest of the way off. And just like that, we have great access to everything now. So this is a little better look at that shift switch. That wire harness comes down around the back side. This is it. And it's usually connected right up underneath this head. And then obviously this is the plug that I undid out there on the water. We can kind of stick it back down where it goes now. I'm not going to reconnect it because, see, this one's bad and it's fixing to come out. But we'll get this shift switch off and go move the throttle into full throttle. This will get that out of your way. If you are advancing that throttle lever, make sure it might not go very far forward. Make sure you spin your prop to line up that clutch dog in there. Then you'll be able to move the handle. And with the shifter and everything out of the way, that really gave us a good look at this switch. Well, that sucker. Ah, there it is. It's sticking. So that's why it's working sometimes and sometimes it isn't. Not necessarily that the contacts in there are bad. It's just thinking it's still in neutral when you're trying to go. Look how slow. That should just pop right back out instantly. So yeah, we're definitely verifying this is our problem. Well, here's another way you can test this thing. You can actually do this while this is installed on the motor. We got this one out just to make it a little easier. But we'll set our meter on the continuity test. And we like that on the audible one so we can hear it. Which, when you make contact, it's going to sound like that. I'm going to carefully get those in there without touching, so they're not making a sound right now, which is good. And then when the switch is activated, that's what you want to hear. Said you can test this on the boat. If this switch is sticky like this particular one was, and this isn't coming all the way back out when you let off, you know, you might try and clean it up or change it. That's the issue we had. Contacts were good, it's just this pin switch was staying stuck in. And in case you were wondering, I'm using a 5.5 millimeter for these 2 screws. Okay, so here it is. This is honestly all you have to remove. This is the only tools you'll need to do this job. If you had this switch in your hand, it's literally a 5-10 minute little deal. So we got it off of there. It's definitely sticky. That thing, and I'll show you once I get a new one, but it should be popping right back out, and it's not. So that's definitely why it's intermittent. The engine vibration, you know, before everything got hot maybe or warm, it worked fairly good. So now on to our bonus fuel leak all that epoxy crap or whatever it is in that nut is really looking in bad shape, which is probably why we got the leak. And that's just the water in the fuel sensor. So I'm gonna unscrew that out of there and get a new one of those while we're out too. So the bonus fuel leak, you'll definitely want to use a 5/8 like the flare nut style wrench. To get it off, it don't really matter, but you're gonna want something that supports this pretty well putting your new one on, because you don't want that same thing to happen in there. You don't want to crack that all loose. Well, there we go. We got our fuel sensor off. We'll get a new one of those. I don't know if you can really see that, but it was leaking out of this side. The O-ring and everything is good. The nice thing is it's a easily to replace part, so we can get that booger whipped out pretty quick. It's, as you can tell, this is not a very hard job at all, and it's something pretty easy to diagnose. I bent that clip mainly because I couldn't remember whether that switch needed to be opened or closed, and come to find out it needed to be open. But that clip did verify that when that circuit was closed, everything was working as it should. It wouldn't let you over rev it in neutral, even though you weren't in neutral. We'll get a few parts. This ain't no big deal. Okay, well, we're gonna take another look at the computer. Okay, so here we go. Here's the one we forced by, well, the last one probably by putting that in the plug. Last time you heard the alarm go off, that's what we were doing right there. So basically what that switch is doing when it sticks or isn't working correctly is it's just telling the engine that you're still in neutral, even though you're trying to go on, in gear. It's supposed to keep you from being able to over rev the engine in neutral. And when it fails, you get the problem that we just saw out there on the water and we're seeing here on the computer. In a pinch, you could probably run it with it unplugged, get back to the dock or whatever. I wouldn't recommend leaving that as your permanent fix. Just go ahead and buy the part, put it back together. It's not going to be that expensive. All right, I made it back with some parts. Here's the part number if you can read it. Keep in mind you will want to take your serial number for your particular motor to the dealer to get the right part. These motors, there's some differences between years and horsepower ranges, so be careful with that. Make sure you get the right one for your motor. Anyway, we'll get this installed. Okay, so here's the new one. I'm not going to tell you how much it cost me because 2 weeks from now it'll be a different price, and I don't want to make a bunch of y'all mad. So this is the new one. See how fast that little button comes right back out. That was definitely what we were missing on that old one. Here's our old one back. It's a lot harder, but you see it's... So now you can kind of see the difference. Be very careful getting these little screws started because they will be very easy to strip out. So definitely make sure you get them started by hand. Nice and easy. Be careful snugging those screws too. They'd be real easy to over tighten. Once you get it tightened down, go ahead and try it. Make sure it's functioning nice and smooth. And yeah, the wire harness goes down behind the back, runs through these hoses, and then we'll make that connection. All right, make sure it's clipped back together. Everything's sealed up. We'll put a couple of tie straps back where they were. So we put 2 tie straps back where they were originally. Now, if you use some little nippers that are flat on one side, you can keep these from becoming razor blades under your cowling. Just Get it up nice and close. And it leaves a nice flush end. It doesn't leave that little deal sticking out of there that cuts you up. Same thing with this one. There we go. Yeah, get you a pair of those. Okay, so as far as our bonus fuel leak goes, got that sensor too. So yeah, we'll get started. We'll go ahead and plug this off before we put that cowling back together. And even though this is just plastic going in aluminum, I like to lubricate the threads and the O-ring with a little 2,4-C marine grease. It just keeps stuff from sticking as bad. And exactly 5 seconds later, you are done with that, and make sure it's plugged back in. I like these kind of repairs. So before putting this side cowling back on, I like to go ahead and put that bolt back in. That's the one you got to reach underneath the rigging tube to get to. And go ahead and stick that bottom bolt back in the hole. It's just kind of in a hard spot to get your hand to put it back in there. If you don't shake it around too much, they'll stay where you need them to. And once you get that channel started on that gasket, you're gonna have to line up this part, make sure it goes where it's supposed to go. And then you just gently slide it together. Good there. We're coming together up here good. Pushed it all the way up. No problem. So if you ever pull the cover off the other side, you do have to watch out for some wires and stuff. You don't want to get those pinched in there, but this left side cover is real easy. With this socket with the wobble built in, you can actually get it from this top side as well, which does make it a little easier. So sometimes this rigging tube can take a little adjusting to get right. These have grooves that they got to fall down into. Just make sure you got it all straight before you put your plate back in there, and bolt it down. Don't forget to put your little plug back in the cowling. All right, so we'll take this one for a test drive. I'll bring y'all back as something goes on, but if you don't hear back from me on this video, that means everything went great. Thanks for watching. Hope this helped y'all out. At least give you some ideas of what you could possibly check. You know, definitely throw that throttle handle forward and just reach in there and feel that button. I mean, if it feels really sticky, that could be your problem. It'd be real easy to figure out. It's not a super expensive repair if you're just buying parts, but that's what this video is here for. Maybe show you how easy it is to take care of it yourself. Anyway, rambling on again, so time to go. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. You don't need a whole bunch of fancy stuff to figure that out. But I also wanted to let the airplane fly by. And the truck. I'm gonna put our little meter there. That should be the setting we need. Verify that setting works. That's not the setting we need. It's not doing it all the time. And that sucks.